And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at a small game called Lost Legacy: The Starship. Now there are a lot of Lost Legacies floating around. This may be the first one. AEG, there was a first one called the Starship and Flying Gardens. AEG split those into two different sets to make it easy. I mean, you can mix the different sets together, and that's not a terrible idea. Some cards fit better with other sets, but you can just buy this game straight up. Now, you may have played a game called Love Letter. Well, Lost Legacy: The Starship is the successor to Love Letter. So let's take a look at how it plays, and we'll be back. At the beginning of the game, one card is placed in the middle. This card is known as the Ruins. More cards can be placed in the Ruins. Each player gets a card into their hand. These cards will have a number or an X. I have this Sneak Attack. So on your turn, you're going to draw another card in your hand. You'll have two cards. You'll pick one of these cards to play. You play this card into your discard pile. Do whatever it says. Play passes to the next person. There are cards that can eliminate different people from the game. At the end of the game, each player is going to, when the deck runs out, if there is more than one person left in the game, those people are going to look at the numbers in their hand. Whoever has number 1 will go first. If no one has that, then number 2, etc. And that person is trying to guess where the Starship is, the Lost Legacy Starship. They can pick the card from someone else's hand. They can pick one of the cards in the Ruins. They reveal that card. If it's the Starship, they win. If not, we go to the next lowest number. In fact, if you have the Starship in your hand, when it gets to number 5, you just say, I have the Starship, and you win. So you can win by eliminating the other players or finding the Starship at the end of the game. The different cards do different things here. The number 1 card, this is a dangerous card. Obviously, it's great at the end of the game because you have the first chance to find a Starship. But if someone ever looks at this card in your hand for any reason, you're eliminated. Here you can look at the top card of the deck, switch it with your hand. Here you can look at another player's hand or at a card in the Ruins. If that card's a Lost Legacy, you win. So you can find it before the end of the game as the Shadow Thief. Then we have the Swordsman. You can look at someone else's hand. If they have an X, we cancel the X and they're dead. Just as a sides up, if anyone ever looks at the X, then that person's dead. And you discard the X and you get their card. But the Swordsman cancels that. So there's lots of ways to look at cards in other people's hands and discard them. We already looked at the 5, which is the Starship. And then the 6 here is the map, where you can look at the top card of the deck and put it in the Ruins. And then you can shuffle the Ruins. So this adds cards to the Ruins. The 7 lets you look at a card in the Ruins and put it in your hand if you want. The 8 lets you look at someone else's hand and switch that card with the card in your hand. And then the X is a Sneak Attack. And there's multiples of some of the cards. You can see the number of dots up here shows that there's 3 of each of those cards, while there's only one number 1. And that's how you play. I feel pretty safe to say that if you like Love Letter, you'll like this game. This, of all the different Lost Legacies, this is the one that's closest to Love Letter. This is the one most about player elimination. In fact, many games of the Starship have ended with one player winning by elimination. Now, the game is very quick. It's not a problem to be eliminated in a 5 to 10 minute game. Not a big deal. And you can be eliminated in the first turn, especially with this one, with a card that if someone looks at it, they're eliminated, or a card where you can look at someone and eliminate them. There's a lot of that going around, and I find that interesting. I find that fun as it goes back and forth, and then there's that whole hot potato thing. Where is the Starship? Where is the Starship? So at the end of the game, it could be in one of the cards in the Ruins, or it could be in somebody's hand, and you have to guess where it is. Looking at people's hands during the course of this game is incredibly dangerous because you could die, but at the same time, you might find the Starship early on and then win the game. And the risks are worth taking. And so there's these quick moments of tension in the game. Basically where you pause for a moment and you say, ooh, do I want to look at that card in that person's hand? All right, I'll do it. I'm out. Or, and then just try, if you do have the spaceship, trying to bluff it off like you might have an X in your hand and have someone pick it. The artwork is fine and has a very cool high fantasy feel to it, but I like that addition to the game, and it's easy. Of the first 2, Lost Legacies of Starship and Hanging Gardens, this one I prefer much more to the other one, although there are many other Lost Legacies coming, and some of those I like better than this one. However, if you like Love Letter, and I can't emphasize it enough, I really think you'd like this. This is the most similar. It's easy to go into. It adds a few extra things that Starship, you're trying to figure out where it is. I'm really not sure what the thematic purpose of that is, but anyhow, it works easily, and so this might make even also a great gift if you know someone who loves one of the variations of Lost Letter. I think they'd like this one also. Lost Legacy, the Starship. Dice Tower Judgment, approved.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.
Yeah?